passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in, touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond.
Swinging it right! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jared Watson.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Andy and Jared, Cleveland and Beyond. I'm Jared Watson along with Andy Billman, and thanks for joining us for another episode. We're going to talk Browns breakdown, little preview for the Chargers, the good and the bad of what we've seen so far this season. College football, not a lot to talk about, but a few games you might want to pay attention to. And the Cleveland Indians have got some major changes coming. It's just we don't know exactly how that's going to look yet, and not a good look coming out of some of the players' mouths at the end of the season either. But Andy, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Nothing much. That was a good warm-up we did there. I feel I can't wait to talk about this again. No, it's look, you know, we kind of tipped it off in the last as our preview. Now that my microphone's on, that we can go back to reality.
Cleveland Browns.
The Browns have really taken over the spotlight, especially now that the Indians have exited stage left. The Cavs are still in preseason mode, so they're not even on the stage yet. So, you know, for a team that I still believe in my heart of hearts, it is a Browns town. They have now really taken over. There's no more Indians playoff run. The Cavs, even when they do start playing basketball, they will definitely be second fiddle in that town. So the Browns now there's no more distractions, and there wasn't really a lot to begin with outside the Indians. The Browns have really now taken over. And, you know, something that we alluded to earlier, you know, I was at Best Buy in Meriden, Connecticut, and people were responding to me saying, love to watch the Browns on Sunday with my sweatshirt on. So it's amazing.
Isn't that a weird feeling? I now, you know, living outside of Baltimore, this is the first time living here that I've actually felt comfortable wearing my Browns gear in public without getting either people that feel sorry for me or shaming me, which I can usually put up with. It's not that I'm embarrassed about being a Browns fan. It's just I don't really want to go through that every time I throw on a T-shirt. But at this point, I'm wearing it proudly. I left during halftime of the Ravens game to run to the grocery store real quick, and I was walking around proud, wearing my Browns jersey or, you know, shirt during the game, you know, that they were playing the Ravens, and I was waiting for someone to say something to me. No one did. But yeah, it's nice. And you saw that illustration. I think it was featured in Cleveland.com. Somebody drew something where it was one of those nice little, you know, cartoons of a Browns player tapping an Indians player in the back saying, we'll take, you know, good job, guys. We'll take over from here. I thought that was a great illustration.
It was a great illustration. And to be fair to the Indians, they have really picked up the whole mantle the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, absolutely. And they did the same thing from 95 to 99.
Yes. So the Indians have had that mantle, and they should be proud of what they did. But with that said, you know, we'll peace out on the Indians here in a little bit, but it's Browns and Chargers week. Another new opponent where, you know, the big thing with the Browns now when you go into these games, the rookie quarterback and excitement, you know, it's hard to go each week without saying, like, what's going to happen next, meaning this team hasn't played together now. This is still a new team. So when you watch these other clubs, like a Packers is a good example, you always usually get a vibe of how things are going to go before the kickoff. The Browns are certainly not at that point yet.
Right.
So with the Chargers coming into town, the Chargers are kind of in the same organization now for a while where at times they look quick. They're very athletic. Philip Rivers is right now a top 3 overall passer in the league with his passer rating. The Chargers are 8th overall in points. They're always fast. Melvin Gordon's a good, steady running back, top 10 running back in any standards by most. So here they come, like the Chargers. And again, the Chargers have been this way, it seems like forever now.
Yeah.
Rivers has always been very good, whether it's LaDainian Tomlinson or now Melvin Gordon. They always have weapons. Antonio Gates is still running around the field. Kent State's own, playing well for the Chargers. So they always come in with a lot of weapons. It's the same old story. They find ways to score points. They will also find ways to lose. So the overall theme should be this week, it's a good test. No Bosa, so you don't have to worry about that on defense. But this is a good opponent that's a winnable opponent. So it's not an impossible task. You're not playing the Chiefs or the Rams right now. This is a team that's a very winnable game at home. So it's a good test for the Browns. It really is coming into this week.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I don't have a great read on what to expect, and that's normal. Week to week with the Browns, it's difficult to really have a good read. You just want to continue to see improvements. The thing that I feel that they can't continue and win this game in San Diego if they have the issues with penalties that they had in previous games. That can't happen, especially with an offense that will move faster. You can't have guys like Myles Garrett, he might get a sack and then he's going to turn around and negate it by jumping the snap too early, and getting a penalty, you gotta stay focused, in the moment. And again, those issues, we've talked about it. It goes right back to Hugh Jackson, when it comes to penalties, in my opinion. They've got to clean that up if they're going to win this game against the Chargers, because they are very beatable. And this is another game where you can get a read on exactly where the Browns are progress-wise to this point in the season, especially if Baker keeps going out there. He's going to struggle to figure out exactly who he wants to get the ball to. I think that's going to be another possible issue is if Antonio Callaway's not making catches early, or if Jarvis drops one early, Baker will spread the ball around, and he has, in his past couple of games. But is he spreading the ball around because he doesn't have, because he feels he can throw to all these guys, or is he doing it because he still hasn't found his number one,
Well, I don't think he's found his number one.
Yeah.
I think Landry is clearly his favorite target. I think by the end of the year, Landry will be his number one. I think it's going in that direction. I don't know if you can say that now. To the bigger point about what you're alluding to, this week you don't have Higgins. Derek Willis is questionable for Sunday. So you're going to have Rod Streeter right off the street playing for you, Damian Ratley. And even with Callaway, and again, Callaway's a rookie, and Landry, this is a good test for Baker too. Higgins is not an all-pro, but Higgins is a reliable receiver who has some years in this league, and he's not playing. So you're going to rely on a lot of players like a Callaway and a Willis and Ratley who are all rookies. That's a big question going into a game like this. So to the bigger point, is this David Njoku's week where he really takes Fells and DeValve are going to have an impact in this game? And I think you'll see more Duke Johnson. I would not be surprised if you even see him maybe at times flanking out and really coming out of the backfield a lot more and catching balls, because I just can't see Callaway, Willis, and Ratley along with Landry doing enough for Baker. I think they're going to have to get Duke Johnson out there too to help get some more options out there in the field. So all those come into play. This is a great test for Baker against the Chargers. They were fast. Very different opponent from the Ravens. The Ravens are defensive stout. They're very good defensively. They're number one overall in defense. And now you're playing a team that's, again, their defense isn't bad. They're good. They're average. But you're playing a team that's quick, fast, strong. They're going to have to score points this week. The Browns are not going to be able to score under 20 and win, in my opinion. You're going to have to score at least 24 or more to get this win this week. So very different challenge from this team. The defense has done such a nice job outside the Raiders game of really providing this offense a chance to score. But like I said, it's not going to be 12-9 again. I think you're going to have to score some points to beat the Chargers this week.
I really would like a game, though, where you get a feeling early on that the Browns have it, maybe not so much in the bag, but they're solid, and you know what I mean. You're gonna.
Yeah.
I want a game where I don't have to sweat it the entire game, the entire 4 quarters.
Yeah,
I don't know that that's even going to happen at all this season. And I don't know that it's possible to do it in San Diego, but man, it would be nice. It would definitely set the tone for the second quarter of this season as well.
Yeah. I think, I agree with you. These games are exhausting. They're fun games, but it feels like afterwards you just need a long nap, hibernation. But I don't think
smoke anymore, but man, I'd love a cigarette after.
Right, exactly, right, or a stiff cocktail.
Yeah.
But I think something like this kind of game, you're not going to see that game either. Even if the Chargers are up, the Chargers always do things to keep teams in games. So I don't see this being one way or the other. We're going to see a team up big at any point, and even if that one team is, I would not be surprised the other team makes a comeback one way or the other. Chargers games always seem to go that way, where they're always in between 7 points. So I think that's another game what you're looking at here. Actually, I think the weeks to come are very similar with the Buccaneers and Steelers on the road. I don't think either one of those games will be, again, I think they're going to be right down the end. I think that's what you're looking at with this team. You kind of alluded to the bigger two overall points, which we've been seeing all year. Will the drop passes, will there be a few, or will they feel like they're just stacking on top of each other like the Raiders game?
Yeah.
That'll be something to watch this week, because, again, with one less weapon. And, again, Higgins is not a great wide receiver. I'm not naive. But to have less experience in that spot, I think you're going to feel that more this week. I just would be surprised if Willis and even with his injury, Ratley, and these guys are Callaway, if they really put on a performance where you don't miss Higgins' presence. I'd be surprised. I think you're going to miss Higgins this week in this spot.
Does that make the run game that much more important this week too?
Yes.
And with that said, does that mean that Chubb's going to get the carries that we hope he gets? Or are they going to focus more on hitting Duke in the flat or a lot of checkdowns or some of those drawn up misdirection kind of play action, a lot of play action in this game.
Here's what I would say. Carlos Hyde's done such a nice job. Hyde, Chubb, Duke. I don't really particularly see one yet where one's standing out over the other. Right. Hyde's done such a good job as a lead back that I wouldn't change that. Carlos Hyde deserves the carries, and he's earned them so far. Yeah. If Chubb gets opportunities, that's great. I think as the year goes on, you're going to see more of Chubb, because that's naturally what goes on in football now, where they try to rotate backs more out, especially if the back's been there all year, so that way he's not getting injured towards the end. But I think the Browns are doing a great job with Chubb, actually. I know he didn't get a lot of carries last week, but that doesn't bother me so much. What bothers me is the drop passes and these penalties.
Frustrating.
The penalties are, it's been a disease now for the Browns forever, it feels like, but it's the last 3 or 4 years, it's gotten to the point where it's almost shocking when the Browns don't have a penalty on a drive on defense or a drive on offense. It's just surprising now. The penalties are just out of control, and I don't think it's cost them a game yet, but if this continues, I think it will.
It takes the air out of any balloon. I mean, that's just it just does. Or it is such a defeating feeling. With especially the timing on some of the last week, I think it got really annoying.
Yeah,
and of course, it was lopsided, and we know that. And we don't normally sit here and complain about the refs. I know I've wanted to a little more often this season than usual, and part of that is because the Browns, in my eyes, are good now. Right, and so now the refs, when I do notice the refs, I don't want to notice the refs. Why are you making me notice you? Stop, Right. And that's the nature of us being a decent team now.
Well, I think part of it is too, going back to the Ravens game. That's the first time all year I thought the refs were a little too one-sided against the Browns. Yeah. There were a lot of times where I saw the Ravens making penalties, pushing the backs especially. I know Tony Grossi mentioned he saw some offsides in a couple of plays. That was the first game that raised my eyebrow. I'm like, I get the feeling because of who the Browns have been and who they are, they've kind of earned some flags that are unfair. Or if they have earned some flags, the Ravens are not getting the same due diligence when they're doing things. Other than that, though, even with that said, I didn't think it was blatant, meaning to the point it was affecting the game. And I really didn't think this year, with any of the calls the Browns have been getting, that I thought the flags were unfair. I thought the Browns make a lot of penalties in these games. Hopefully at some point it eases up and pumps the brakes, but kind of what we alluded to going in with the injury of Higgins, the topic has been brought up about Dez Bryant. What are your thoughts about possibly bringing Dez in now knowing that even Derek Willis might be out on Sunday and Higgins is out for a couple weeks? Well,
I think that anyone who wants to hang on to the negatives of bringing Dez on, they don't have to worry about that anymore. I feel like the Browns are solid enough in their own identity that bringing a Dez in isn't going to be a distraction. And I believe that being a distraction is probably the biggest worry that anyone would have about bringing Dez in, because Dez is all about Dez. It's just who he is. If he can come in and he can perform, great. If he comes in and he's a problem in the locker room, they're not going to have time for that, and they're not going to allow it to distract them either. It's that simple. I don't see a negative out of it the only negative is it doesn't work and you get rid of him. The end. He gone. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah.
To me.
I just think it's gotten to the point now with the Willie's injury today that I think I think if Willie's or one of these guys go down and Higgins is still out, I think you have to bring Dez in. I don't even think it's a question.
But does Dez even want to come in?
You know what? You got to start becoming creative and figure it out. Because the Browns now are in a place where they're being successful and they need to get wins. So with that in mind, they're going to have to figure these things out. This is how it works. There comes a point where you say, it's not we're just rebuilding and we're going for next year, which I hated that anyways. The Browns are trying to make a run. And you sometimes have to take on the responsibility of we're bringing in someone who wants to get paid and who thinks – and he's talented, thinks he can help really bring some wins, and maybe at times does bring some attitude and some other things that are distractions, let's call them. But that said, if you keep stacking up injuries like this, I just don't think you can keep going on with these kind of players. And, before we get to the next one, the bigger thing, too, here, you alluded to, and we both did, the depth of the Browns is really going to be tested.
Absolutely.
First week, we passed the test of the secondary. That passed. Everything went well. Everything looked good.
Yep.
Now to the next test. Are these wide receivers? Yes, it's just Higgins. But are these wide receivers ready? And again, is David Njoku, is he ready to take that next step forward?
Well, we got to admit, even when we talk about depth of wide receivers, we didn't expect Higgins to be playing as important a role as he is.
Yeah.
And what was it last week? Gaines with his performance on the field in the secondary really surprised the hell out of me. So how funny is this though, Andy? We're talking about where Plan A is basically a rebuild of the team. Who'd have guessed that Plan B would have been making a run for the playoff?
I know,
that came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Well, it did. It came quickly.
Yes.
And the thing is,
I don't think anyone was prepared for it either.
And the thing that's been I shouldn't say very surprising. What's been good is they've been in every game.
Yes.
So it isn't like they've had a blowout here and there. Like there's been no false litmus test so far. They've really proven up. One more. We didn't do this on the last one, but I want to do it here.
Yep.
So do you still like the Gordon trade at this point?
I've wiped that. He doesn't wear a Browns uniform anymore, so okay. I don't. I'm that guy. Good. I'm glad he's doing well. I don't care if he scores, and I've told you this before, I don't care if he scores another 10 touchdowns this season, gets 1,000 yards receptions, and wins a Super Bowl with the Patriots. I don't care. It doesn't. Some people hang on to that stuff, and of course he leaves, of course he does. I don't care. I care about everybody who's wearing the orange and brown. That's who I care about right now.
I still think it's the right move as well.
Yeah.
But I will say it gives you a little pause. Because right now we're short on wide receivers if Willis is out. I'm sorry.
Who knows? But you know what? We don't even know if he'd have played here, Again,
it was the right – let me repeat. It was the right move.
Yeah.
I don't think Gordon should be here, but it gives you pause.
Yeah.
Meaning I don't think they should bring him back. I don't think they had to make that trade. They had to. It was the right move. It just gives you pause. Meaning, gosh, it would have been great if that could have worked out.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been, but
it didn't. It didn't. No, I'm agreeing. I'm just saying, get your pause.
Anyone who's been in a bad relationship and keeps going back expecting something different, it's never different.
That's true. That's for
and then you see him flourishing with somebody else. Well,
that's true.
You know what?
That's true.
That ain't because of you. It wouldn't work with you anyway. And that's Josh Gordon.
Again, I agree with you about Gordon. It just gives you pause.
Yeah.
Should Taylor be traded? The backup quarterback. Should we be trading him at some point?
I don't know what purpose he serves right now on the team, and that's not a knock on him. Even his role as a leader in the locker room, I don't know how important that is right now, seeing how quickly Baker's grabbed a hold of the reins and has legitimate leadership qualities.
Right.
So, and also the team, everyone knows Tyrod wants to start somewhere. He wants to be on the field, and he's not going to get that here in Cleveland. So absolutely, because you're not going to get anything at the end of the season anyways out of him.
Right.
He's just done here. It's a 1-year deal. So if you can get a draft pick or something, make the move. the question that you definitely focus more on is the when of that, if it does happen.
Yeah, I think that's a better question. I think, or what situation the Browns are in. Because Taylor's not coming back. That's not the problem. The question is, there's come a point where that if they're in a playoff run, I would be hesitant to give him away. Only because I think he might be able to get you by with a few games, and Stanton I don't think can. But if your team is, again, 4-4-1, 3-6-1, well, I think I would trade Taylor. You're probably not in a playoff run. You're not going to keep him next year. 3-5-1, sorry. So might as well try to get something out of him. That's the way, at least I look at it. It's an interesting point. I think it's a fair one. It's not one of these clickbait things. I think that's a fair question because he's not coming back. Baker's a starter next year. So keeping Taylor, if you get some value out of him, might as well do it, right? Right?
No, that's exactly it. Because otherwise, again, what is his purpose? His purpose was to start, and that is no longer his purpose. So, there isn't a second. If he can kick field goals, I'll keep him. That's it.
Well, yeah, we should talk about that. Okay, I didn't do this the first time. I'll do it now. Would you trade for Phil Dawson, who's possibly going to get cut in Arizona?
In a heartbeat.
Me too.
In a heartbeat. Wouldn't Phil love to come home?
It's going to be interesting to watch. There's rumors that he might get cut. He's been missing field goals this year. It's going to be interesting.
Hey, and maybe he's pulling a Josh Gordon and missing him on purpose.
Whatever. Hey, Phil. For the team, buddy. For the team. So I for the city.
Yes.
But I just think that's something to watch too. We mentioned it last week. I would see that's the trade I'd be hot after. I would try to make a trade with a 5th or 6th or 7th round pick to get a kicker at this point. I think it's actually worth it. As I don't know how much longer you can keep going with Joseph there as your kicker. Biggest positive so far 5 games in is?
It's got to be Baker Mayfield. Yeah. No doubt there is just unreal. And you saw it from first half to second half against the Steelers.
Yes.
Wow. This is for real, guys and gals. Yeah. This kid is for real. He is going to be a star in this league, in my opinion. And a lot quicker than I expected it to happen, too. I was in the camp that I didn't want him on the field. I did not want him playing. I had do not protect him. Let him learn, sit on the bench. Tyrod, it's all yours. Take it as long as you can. Yep. And then he's thrown out there to the Wolves. And of all games against any team to come out against the Steelers and bring that team back to finish in a tie, which I never seen a tie light a city on fire like that one did.
Well,
I shouldn't say that. It was a letdown at the end, but it was still nice that it wasn't as big as getting the actual win. But
well, I was gonna say it was kind of like lighting off a Roman candle, and only one ball came out.
There you go. Maybe that's the way. Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, it's nice, but kind of weird. That's the biggest positive I saw so far is how they've been in every game and how the excitement of not just in Cleveland but nationally the team has been.
Yeah.
I would actually argue Hard Knocks was probably the biggest positive.
It might have been. It really was. It gave a great eye-opening experience to people who just thought the Cleveland Browns are nothing but this perpetual joke, and now they know they aren't. And yeah, that was a big deal too.
It really was. The positive momentum. I just can't. I mean, the biggest positive is the positive momentum. But honestly, it's true. That's not just throwing away a comment. It's been amazing to see, and they've been in every game so far. Every game. Biggest negative.
I still think the biggest negative is having Hugh Jackson as head coach of this football team. I know that sounds mean, and we've talked about it. I don't dislike Hugh as a person, I don't think. I just don't need him coaching this football team.
Yeah, I would have said that too, so I'll give a different answer. I think the biggest negative has been the special teams. I never thought special teams could impact as much of a season of 5 games in. Over a season, yes. But 5 games in, special teams has really had effect over this team. A close second is penalties, but I'll give the winner that's special teams. It's been the best we can hope for is average. Average is good for Cleveland right now when it comes to special teams. That's just how off the wall it's been. This has been so bad at times. Biggest surprise so far.
Hitting on our draft picks.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would actually double down and say not only that, Denzel Ward is just – I knew he'd be good. I wasn't thrilled with the draft picks. I love pass rushers.
Right.
I was wrong. Denzel Ward is going to be a great player if he stays healthy. He is, again, we've seen Dixon and Minifield. I was there for the Johnson brothers growing up and, Clay Matthews and all those guys in the 80s, and those teams were so talented on defense. But I have not seen a player like Denzel Ward who just jumps out of the screen at times with his playmaking ability. And that's with Myles Garrett on defense. So it just tells you, I just have been shocked positively about Denzel Ward. He is going this year, if you had told me, could he be better than Myles Garrett, I would have laughed outside and would have been crying by the end. Like, no. You're drinking way too much of the silly stuff. There's no way it's going to happen. But 5 games in, I'm actually starting to wonder if he's that good. That's how good Denzel Ward's been. You kind of teed it up, but we'll ask again, state of Hugh, stay or go at this point, 5 games in. You're, 30% in the season right now. So should he go?
I want the Cleveland Browns to take a page from the Cleveland Cavaliers of old. And just like the Cavs didn't care when the season was, what part of the season they were in, what position they were in the standings, how well they, none of that mattered. Blatt had to go. In my opinion, Hughes got to go. I don't care if it makes anyone mad. I don't care if people question, the timing. But they're finally getting. I don't care. They're winning in spite of Hugh.
I
the
just
penalties. We talked about the penalties before that. That's a reflection of Hugh and his discipline or lack thereof.
Yeah. I would also say at this point too that I would have him go. Now, if he makes the playoffs and the Browns win the playoffs, you can't fire him. So that day will happen.
So don't keep him that long then.
That is the dilemma of bringing someone like this back, because I'm not a fan of his. Nice guy. He's not a very good coach. So now you're bringing this guy back, and now you're winning games despite him. I agree with you about that comment. But if he keeps winning and they go to the playoffs, you can't fire him. No way you can keep firing him. And I think to a different point, a surprise too has been Coach Haley. I want to mention this. I fell in love with that guy after Hard Knocks. Very big fan of his, like his energy, like his spirit. I've been surprised about his play calling at times.
Yeah,
it felt like, it's not as bad as Hugh, but I've seen some moments where I'm like, that was what we've been seeing the last couple of years.
Do you see most of that strangeness coming out? At least for me, I either see it A, in the red zone, or B, when the Browns are pinned back deep in their field, with field position. Yeah. That's when those strange plays seem to happen.
They do. I liked how he ran the ball more last week. I hope we see more of that. I don't think you need to do any more, meaning I thought he had the perfect, I'm not sure what the percentage was, but I'm guessing it had to be around 60-40, maybe 65-35, and that's what you want. I think that's fine. But again, these flip passes at the end of the end zone, everybody's talked about this week, so we all know that play. That was a terrible play call. There's been other examples where I've been surprised by that. So that's another thing to mention there too. And then, real quickly, I think the AFC North has been proven so far. There's not even debatable. The AFC North is the best division in the AFC. So at that point in time, knowing you're playing a tough division, how do you see the Browns finishing right now?
Not in last. I think that first, second, or third are all up for grabs.
I think they finished third. I think that could change as the season goes on. But I've had to be honest myself and seeing what's ahead and knowing injuries will happen and
who's finishing in fourth? The Steelers or the Ravens?
That's a good question. I think the Ravens are full of hot air. So I'll say, well, they got that great defense. I can't believe the Bengals. See, the team that throws me off is the Bengals. I can't believe the Bengals are 4-1.
I think that's the thing. The Bengals, you expect them to implode at any moment, and they haven't. The Steelers were supposed to fall apart and somehow haven't yet. And the Ravens are just chugging along.
I know. I guess to be determined, but I think they'll finish above one of those teams. And that doesn't mean they're not in the playoffs. I think as of right now, I think both your wild cards come out of the North. But again, that's 5 games. I do. Well, who else is going to make it? Give me the other. Okay, Pats, Chiefs, and then the Jaguars. Who's the other team? I mean, Titans. Yeah. Titans don't worry me. Do they Titans worry you?
I'm looking right now.
Dolphins.
Chargers.
Yeah, maybe this is a bigger game than what we think. That's a good point.
I mean, it could be the Chargers.
Could be.
I don't see the Dolphins talking about a team that's going to collide. I can't. The Dolphins are not sustainable.
Dolphins, no. Titans, no. Like maybe the Chargers. Maybe this game's a little bigger than what we think.
Yeah, the AFC South in general is just that's a trash fest.
Vomiting, awful. And honestly, outside the Patriots, the Jets are up and coming. I think with the Darnold. Outside that, I don't.
No, absolutely. The Patriots are like the Indians in that in that conference.
Yeah, talk about loading up on your wins. Pats do that every year. I'll go first in this one. I've had a hard time reading this game this week. I had a much better feel about the Browns being the Ravens last week. I really liked that positioning, seeing how the Baltimore came off a big win on the road, and that the Browns really had just a terrible. Let's not relive that loss in Oakland. So I really like the Browns. I don't have as good a feel about this week in this game. I'm just going to go with the momentum and say the Browns do somehow pull it off. I think they're going to have to score more than 24 points to win, so I'll say 24-27. I think they make enough plays. I just think this game, the only thing that worries me is, again, the Chargers seem to have a knack of hanging around games and also giving up leads. So I think this game comes down the wire again. You just hope at the end of the day that it doesn't come down to a Joseph kick again. And we kind of chuckle, but let's be serious. No more Joseph kicks to win the game. It'd be nice to see them put the ball in the end zone or hold the team. With that said, I think the Browns have really gained this momentum, and I see the team improving each week. The only thing that I would feel stronger about is they had a full staff on wide receivers. That bothers me. I'm not thrilled with the wide receiver position going in this week because of injuries. That said, I'll take the Browns 27-24, but I don't love it. I don't have as good a feel as I did last week.
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit less scoring, 21-20, another tight one, and Browns on top. But this could very well, I mean, I say 21-20, this could end up being like a 38-35 game. This could be a little runaway on both sides offensively.
Yeah. Chargers score quick, and again, they tend to play games in the over, not the under, so you might be right there. Other games to watch this week is Pittsburgh-Cincinnati. That's an interdivisional game. And not just that. I think that game has a lot of juice to it. And when I was growing up, really the Bengals and Steelers, it was a rivalry game, but it didn't really have as much vibe. That game over the last 10 years has added a lot of vibe.
Well, it's because the Browns have been garbage.
They have been. That's part of it too. You're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think it's a fair touche.
Yeah,
right. Very, very fair point.
It's a good dynamite drop in.
Yeah, right. The Captain Obvious gone. But with that said, I thought the game a few years ago added some other things to this. These teams have played a lot in the playoffs actually. So that's a good game this week. There are some other games here and there you may want to tighten your eye to, but the big game is the Sunday night games, Chiefs-Pats. It's a wonderful game. The Chiefs are a fun team to watch. They're very, very quick with the ball, young quarterback. Big game, big spot, because those are one of those games you forget down the road. That's the kind of game that can define home field advantage kind of stuff. So it's a great game in Foxborough. The Monday Night Football game's a clunker, Niners, Packers. And like I said, there's some other games here and there that you could argue, but those are the two that really stand out are Pitt and Cincy and the Chiefs and Pats. Those are the games that really come out to mind. And I'll go real quickly. I made some picks last week, went 2-1. Good old Browns and Chargers led me to some victories. The Rams won, but they were -7, so I lost that game. So 2-1. So here's my picks for this week. This week compared to last week, I see a lot more games that are fun to gamble on that I could see wins for. Last week was a typical average week I saw. This week I saw a lot more possibilities. I Actually, one of the fourth games I like that many this week. I love the Vikings over the Cardinals. The Cardinals got their first win. I think the Vikings now are starting to figure out that they're going to have to start turning it on to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to overlook. This game means more to me, too, because the Bills game and how the Vikings lost that. I love the fact that they lost to a team like this already this year at home. There's no way they lose again like this. I think the Cardinals lose big. It's -10. You take the 10. I bet you they win by 17 plus. I do like the Steelers over the Bengals this week.
This one, I don't know how you're making this call because I wouldn't bet this game.
This is your typical game where the Bengals the week before fluky. See, the Bengals, their stripes started to show a little bit last week. They should have lost to the Dolphins. The Dolphins kind of, I wouldn't say collapsed, but they basically gave that game up a little bit. Bengals ended up winning that game. This is the typical Steelers, everybody, they finally won a game, but the Bengals are that team with momentum. They're 4-1. And this is always the game where the Steelers show up and they beat.
Ben throws for 500 and brings them back. And they're down a touchdown or two in the first half. And then they score 4 or 5 in the second half and run away with it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going off past history here. I just see the Steelers win this game. If this were later on in the year, I feel differently, but this is a perfect game for the Steelers. They just came off a great victory against the Falcons, feeling good. And again, this is usually the game the Bengals lose. So with that in mind, I'll take the dog and the Steelers on the road. This game, I'm surprised at the line. The Jaguars are only a 3-point favorite in Dallas against the Cowboys. Now, in a normal year, I would agree with this. But I don't think it's a normal year. I don't think the Cowboys are that good. Jacksonville just lost to the better team last week against Kansas City on the road. I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville blows them out.
Yeah, feels like an easy pick to me, too. I can see them winning by 10 or more on this game.
I think it's easy. I'm surprised about that line. When I saw that line, that jumped out to me immediately. The one thing to watch, not going too far off the rails, but going on a second, the Cowboys have played a lot of these 4 o'clock Sunday night games, Thursday night, Monday night games. This is the first time in a while, and I'm not a big Cowboys fan, obviously, so I don't really care to watch them. But, there's that aura of America's team, I guess, at times that makes one want to watch. This is the first time in a while I found this team very boring. I don't really care to know what's going on for the Cowboys week.
No, they're they're as bland as their head coach.
Tough one over there. And that's another one too. I mean, you gotta wonder how much longer he stays around. And
I don't know. What does Jerry think?
That's true.
It's Jerry's world. I mean, he's. I mean,
under the big tent, right? Under that big arena.
Yeah.
I just think the Cowboys. I watch Prescott a lot in Mississippi State, and I'm actually a fan of his. I like how he plays the game, and he did a nice job with Mississippi State and going into the first couple years of the Cowboys. But this is kind of who Prescott is. He has moments where he can't throw up big yards. He can't lift your team to victory. He can ride along for it, and he won't make your team lose. But I don't know if he can lift your team to victory. And right now, I think he's being asked to do that. And that's just not who Prescott is. Interesting to watch that team as the year goes along to see how Prescott and Garrett, can they make it through? And I think that's going to be tricky. I think Prescott does, but I don't know about Garrett. I just don't know how much longer they are going to put up with, they being Cowboys fans, of seeing Garrett on the sideline if this continues. I think it will. I don't see any signs of it. And Ezekiel Elliott can run. That's not the question on this team. Can they do enough to win with Prescott? And so far, the only answers have been no. And then an extra pick this week, I will probably normally do 3, but I love this game too much. I think the Rams are just going to blow up Denver. I think the Rams are the other team I really like watching a lot. They're a late team game, and usually the Browns play at 1. So it's always a team to watch that I watch in the 4 o'clock slot.
What are the Broncos? The Broncos are floundering. What is that? They've got to figure some things out by the end of this season too.
Vance Joseph's been rated on a lot of people the hottest seat in football by some. Whether that's fair or not, I don't watch him. What a funny shock! I don't like the Broncos. I don't care to watch them very often. They did some things to me as growing up as a kid, so I don't care to watch for them so much. But even with that said, they got Case Keenum, who's not a bad quarterback, but again, kind of like Prescott, he's okay. I don't know if he can lift your teams to victory, but he can certainly help to win, and he won't lose a game. The defense with Von Miller's a star, absolute stud, doesn't get enough press at times for how good he is on defense. But with that said, the Broncos just don't feel as good as they were 2 or 3 years ago with Peyton Manning, do they? just doesn't feel as good. Doesn't to me, at least. Doesn't feel like the same team. So I love the Rams, but this is more about the Rams. The Rams are just – I knew they were good going in. I've watched several of their games. I don't know if you have, Jared. They are so good.
And I haven't paid much attention to the Rams. Are they as fun to watch, as tough as the Chiefs are this season?
I think the Chiefs and Rams are neck and neck. Yeah. I'd give a slight edge to the Rams. I don't think these two teams are comparable, so I don't want to hear feedback about this because this team was a legendary team. But they have a little similarity to the 80s Niners in that they just do things at times that's just effortlessly.
Right.
They just throw the ball, and it's like it doesn't just go.
That's how I feel about the Chiefs, too. Yeah.
And the Chiefs have that, too.
The way Mahomes makes it look right now is –
yes.
That's a different brand of football.
Yeah, the Chiefs remind me more of the Rams did in the late 90s, early 2000s. Biggest show on turf kind of thing. That reminds me more of the Chiefs where they're just super quick. The Rams make it look effortless. There's just at times where the ball it doesn't just go. It sails 50 yards and for a touchdown. That Jared Goff is going to be a star. He already is. But that team is on its way. So I like the Rams. You take the 7. So Vikings, I take the 7. You're going to give up 10. I'm sorry. Give up 10 for the Vikings. I like them over the Cardinals. Steelers will take the 1.5. I agree, Jared. It's a coin flip game, but the Steelers typically always win these games against the Bengals. Jaguars, I love this game. I would press the gas on this. I think Jacksonville blows out Dallas. And then I like the Rams or the Broncos -7. Real quickly, our good old friend Pat Shurmur is having an interesting season in New York. They lost again last night. Have you been watching this? Are you fascinated as I am? Because everybody in the offseason, especially where I live, goes, oh, Pat Shurmur, wonderful hire. Oh, he's going to be so good. He was in Cleveland. That didn't count. He can't be that bad of a coach. And play 1-5 later. How's it feeling now, New York? That's a woo.
There's Is it on Shurmur, or is it? There's going to be people that argue that this is an Eli problem.
Look, Eli.
You and I know, though. We know enough to know that Shurmur's got equal culpability in this awful season.
Oh, there's an S in a lot of these losses.
But
S doesn't stand for Giants. It stands for Shurmur. S. And you can just feel it. You can just that loss on Thursday was a loss I saw as a Browns fan quite often when they lost the Eagles.
It's nice to spread the love and let other teams experience that.
Again, everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to be wonderful." And,
I don't know why there was that hype around Pat Shurmur.
It's great to see. Hate to say it's great to see.
I just don't.
I'm sure he's a nice guy. It's like, too bad.
Just think they can hire Chud to be an offensive coordinator and get Pettin on defensive coordinator and have the trifecta. Have them all. And then hire Hugh for special teams once we let him go.
And what is so silly about the Giants? They have probably one of the best receivers in the game.
Yeah.
Barkley's going to be a star. Talk about running backs. That kid's going to be a star. And you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. And yet you're 1-5. The only thing I'll give Shurmur is that offensive line is horrific. I mean, that offensive line for the Giants is horrific.
But you know what too, and I've seen this is Eli just does not know. He is not getting rid of the ball quick enough.
I know.
He just is not getting rid of the ball.
I know, and I like Eli a lot, but I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you. So interesting to see that from the Giants. So we all agree. I think the Chargers-Browns game. Close game. Browns win it. You got my picks. I think it's time to talk a little Buckeye and Irish football.
Ohio State football.
Yeah, let's do that briefly because again, like here we go, Ohio State taking on the Gophers. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean this kind of is going to be the same rap we did last week. Noon kickoff, which says a lot about where Ohio State and Minnesota is this week on the radar.
Well, I'm surprised it's on FS1 and not on the Big Ten network. So.
Oh, right, or or back in the day, Fox Sports North, right, or something like that. Fox Sports Ohio, localized only. But yeah, FS1 Buckeyes are 30-point favorites. I mean, look, there's nothing to break down here. Here's the basics for this game. Can the Buckeyes get a complete game for the first time this year? Are they going to be interested enough and not look sluggish to pound the Gophers and win by 40? Because there's no question. You don't even need to break the stats down. You don't even need to watch any game tape of the Gophers. Folks, this team's terrible when it comes in this matchup to the Bucks. The Gophers they could be whatever, but talent-wise, not even close. Buckeyes should win this game big. The only thing I will bring up other than the sluggish attitude is, can they get the running game cranking a little bit more than 1 or 2 yards or a 45-yard burst from Dobbins? That's it. Outside of that, I don't see a lot in this game. Just get through it, get healthy. And I think the one thing Ohio State does need to start doing, a complete game from start to finish. Now,
I think a part of that complete game that I really want to see is I don't want to see them giving up. I mean, they can win, 50 to 20,
right.
Some sort of score like that. But that 20 they give up, it better be garbage time points. It better not be these big plays that defense has allowed in that secondary. They've allowed some explosive big plays to happen on defense, and that is not a good sign for when they need to be consistent, and they are coming close to the end of the season, Big Ten championship game, into the playoffs, and trying to take on a team in Alabama or Notre Dame, and that's not going to bode well for them if they don't tighten up that ship.
No, I agreed. Notre Dame plays Pitt. Pitt's always been a weird thorn in the past years for the Irish. I think this year it's not going to be much of a thorn. I think, again, similar to
it's a good
Ohio
week
State.
To catch Pitt, too, I think, for Notre Dame.
It is, right.
Off of that win against Syracuse.
Right. Well said. Pitt coming off that win. I just look at the Pitt-Penn State score, and I pause and say that's probably more what we're looking at here, where Penn State just blew them out of the water. Notre Dame's got Dexter Williams back for 2 games, and he's just been outstanding his first 2 games back. Ian Book has been great since he started the Wake Forest game. I don't want to break down a whole lot here. It's same for me for Ohio State and for Notre Dame. You want to see this, you want to look smooth, and you want to get moving forward onto the next games as the games get bigger as the year goes on. For the overall picture, though, for college football, we kind of hit on it, but I won't hit on it again for this week. LSU and Oklahoma last week losing was great for both Ohio State and Notre Dame. Moves them back up a couple spots and also gives them some padding if you're Ohio State. So Ohio State didn't move up, but Notre Dame did with the loss to LSU. So it gives you some more padding. West Virginia is really the only team that's kind of circling. They can see sneak in there if some losses happen because they're still undefeated and they're in the Big 12. But really, those 2 losses really help out those teams. But it's now getting to that point of year, and for people who have maybe forgotten, the top 25 playoff poll comes out on Monday.
Yep.
So you're finally going to get to see how these resumes are building out and see what happens. So for Ohio State first, we want to see Michigan State keep winning. I think that's important because those games in November weigh a lot into these decisions, in my opinion. They're not going to say that, but I think they do. So you need to keep Michigan State rolling. That Northwestern loss was not good for Ohio State's resume. You want Michigan State to keep winning. And TCU, too, that's your big non-conference win. You want those teams to keep winning. And a team for both Ohio State and Notre Dame is you want Michigan to keep winning as well. I know that stings. I'm being a Notre Dame fan. I can't stand Michigan either. But having Michigan win and going that final game, Jared, to me, builds Ohio State's resume even stronger in that last game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even it's been a sad 8 years, 10 years of Michigan, Ohio State.
Yes.
It just has been. It's atrocious.
Yes. And I just think those kind of things help. For Notre Dame, it's USC and Stanford. Those are 2 games. You want to see those teams keep winning. You want to see Virginia Tech keep winning as you won that game. But my overall thing is, and you're going to start seeing this now, resumes and polls. And once we get that, we'll do a deeper dive into it. We shouldn't do that today.
Right.
But when those results come out on next Friday's show, we'll kind of piece through it and see where teams are at. Bigger games this week. Bigger games this week to watch. Georgia's at LSU. Georgia's one of those teams that are in that playoff circle right now that are undefeated.
That'll be a fun one.
A great game. LSU had a tough loss against Florida. They've really had a tough schedule so far. Their big 2 games were Auburn and Florida, both on the road. They escaped out of Auburn. They had too many turnovers late against Florida. Florida's defense has really improved. So Georgia starts their run now to basically their tough schedule part because they play LSU in Baton Rouge. They have another game. They have a week off. Then they play Florida in the cocktail party. in Jacksonville. So a big run here for Georgia. Georgia LSU is a great game. This next one doesn't roll off the tongue as sexy, but it is a good game. It's Washington, Oregon. Both teams have one loss. Michigan State, Penn State. Both those games in Michigan are at 3:30. Oregon and Washington is on ABC, and then FS1 for Penn State, Michigan State, and then the nightcapper this week. Looked great on paper until the BYU loss was Wisconsin, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we already described why that game is important to Notre Dame and Ohio State. You want to see Michigan win that game. Keep building that resume type stuff.
Does Michigan State win in Penn State?
No, they don't. That does not burn Ohio State as badly, but no more losses for Michigan State. I would actually fire the Bucks. I would prefer Michigan State wins that game because you want to build your resume going forward. You don't want games where it's
I just don't know that they can win that game.
Oh no, they can't. I don't think they will. But that's what you want. Like right. I look at that game, you just hope, and this is what can happen sometimes in college football. Michigan State loses to Northwestern, they lose at Penn State, they start going on a tailspin. You'd hate to see that.
Yeah.
Your highest. You don't want to go into Lansing and they're 3-5, 4-4, right? Kind of you know what I mean?
You're expected to walk all over them, and even if they give you trouble, you're surprised, but you shouldn't be because
it's Michigan State. It's D'Antoni.
Exactly. I know.
No, but again, I'm a big believer in this. People remember games in October, but forget records later on. So if Penn State were to lose that game, they still back, but it was on the road. It was at night. It's at Penn State. That was a great one for Ohio State. It helps you go in future games. So that's why I'd always say you want Michigan State to win that game to give you better games down the road.
Yeah.
Because that's how you define yourself later on in this playoff pool. Same with Michigan. You really want them to win. So the final little note here, when I was growing up, October used to be a great time for college football. It's really changed. It's now September and November. October's become this weird month, and this is another week where it's like, I'm not saying the games are terrible, but being honest, Jared, outside of Georgia LSU,
there's nothing else. Yeah, there's nothing there.
Nothing really jumps out. As the season goes on, you'll feel 4 or 5 power weights, and this will really this will be a much longer segment in the podcast. But for right now, it's don't get injured against Minnesota, don't get injured against Pitt, and come on back next week. But speaking about getting injured, there's our Indians,
Cleveland Indians.
And they have had a weird
moral injury.
Yeah, talk about mental. Talk about migraine. I'm surprised we're going to do this much on the Indians. I thought this would be more of a quick wrap-up, but we got things to talk about. The big thing that kind of came out after we did our podcast last week is that there's been some scuttlebutt about scouting and analytics not being as good for the Indians as it was for the Astros. I'll tee you up to this. You did it nicely when we were talking last. What do you think when you hear that?
The Indians were outscored by what was like 26 to 8 or some weird, and that's so. How are analytics fixing that? How are they? How are analytics fixing what happened on the back? 6, 7, 8, 9th innings in those games. Analytics. First of all, who are we talking about here? It's Bauer and Clevenger, right? It's those are the guys that those words that come out of their mouths, correct?
Yeah.
Clevenger's young enough that I'm going to give him a pass on this. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and he's got a good buddy in Bauer, and he thinks that he thinks that they have the meeting of the minds and that they've got it figured out.
Sure.
They're wrong. they're so far from being right on this issue. Clev, I love you, kid, but you got some learning to do in this area. And he's gotten himself into some more Twitter trouble as of recently as well, too, getting into arguments. So I think that maybe, when you have those relationships, you hang out with a kid in high school and your parents look at you going, you can hang out with that person until you start changing who you are and who we expect you to be. I think that's kind of what's going on here with Bauer and Clevenger. Clevenger's changing a little bit, and he's losing his Mr. Sunshine look when he's talking about analytics after they get wiped out in 3 games by the Astros in the ALDS. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I mean, we just said it's a captain obvious gone. No, this has nothing to do with analytics and scouting.
Nothing.
I'm telling you, and I hate to admit this, I did not realize how talented and how really good the Astros were until I saw game 1. And by game 3, I'm like, yes, that was not just too many beers at the bar. That team can hit the ball out and hit it out fast and far.
Yeah.
They're cocky, they're good, they were young, and they outplayed the Indians in every way.
Every
way. So that again, that's just a little flake. But to your point about players talking out, Kipnis made some interesting comments too. And I quote,
Right.
"It just seems from the top to bottom, we were outscored, out-hit, out-pitched, and out-coached a little bit. They did a really fantastic job over there, being ready and prepared before the series. I don't think we were underprepared. They just went out and executed and played the way you need to win." So he kind of caught himself in the back half of that quote there. And I love Kip. I think I like his spirit and I like his energy. I was surprised he said in that line, we were outscored, out-hit, out-pitched, and out-coached. Was surprised to hear him say that. That's usually not something a player does about a coach. A coach will say that about himself. And a coach will obviously they have the right to talk about different players and situations about who played well and did not. But it's usually atypical of a player to say we got outcoached. So that was strange. So Francona, when he did his day on Wednesday with Antonetti and Chernoff, he mentioned, I quote, "When it's public, I can understand why you'd ask," if someone was asking about the quote that Kipnis gave, "but I'd like to keep that conversation private with him, and it sounds like he's comfortable with where they had it." So obviously Francona was a little taken aback by what Kipnis had said too.
Yep.
So you can tell 16's closed. All those good feelings.
Clearly.
We are. Shop is closed. Changes are going to be coming.
I'm trying to analyze Kipnis here and why he would say something like that. And the only thing I could come up with was, the Bauer out of the pen issue, or as you had said before, Kipnis in the infield or in the outfield. Right. But to me, even those are strange. Those two issues, that the only two that I can think of coaching wise, that he would be referencing.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can call that out coached, because at the same time, you're talking about making decisions on the field that you have to make because the players are being outplayed.
That's right.
That's right. I mean, that's
right. I just was surprised Kipnis said that, because the only move you can maybe debate that I didn't think was terrible at the time was when Carrasco came out for Miller. Outside of that,
that was way too early. You're talking about Carrasco with 75 pitches. I did not like that.
That was early. And by the way, that's a typical analytical move now. That's what the game's going to. But that's for a different day. But outside of that, it's like, again, every string Francona pulled. I mean, I don't know if I could have pulled, or you could have pulled, or even Tommy Lasorda or Whitey Herzog or whoever could have pulled some of the strings. It wouldn't have mattered. I thought that was an odd comment. I was not surprised Francona was taken back by it. I could tell he wants to keep that nipped in the bud.
Yep.
But to the overall point, this is the signs of change is coming. And then another one that this one did not surprise me. Obviously got brought up by a lot in the same day as on Wednesday. What was the overall theme and feelings now with Jose really struggling since August? Francona really went on defense with Jose, which I do understand. Look, this team couldn't have been anywhere without Jose Ramirez. You can't pratfall that. But again, this is a bigger point that we made in the last podcast. Jose going into the 2019 playoffs, if the Indians happen to get back, I'm going to be more pausing than I would have. It's not just a fluke what happened in 17. Now you got 18 improvement.
Well, at least you can look at the fact that this happened to Jose prior to the postseason.
Yeah.
And he just carried it into the postseason because he had never figured it out. So at least you've got that to make you feel like it might not necessarily be a postseason issue. But again, what happened? What happened? Where did he go? He lost his swing, and that's really what it came down to. He lost his swing.
Yeah, I think this year's Jose is a lot more about his swing. As this has been going on since August. Last year, the Yankees had kind of came upon in October. In this case here, this has been going on for Jose for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a long slump. So I think that one was more not just playoffs, but Jose's got it's like anything else when it comes to a batter like that. They're just in a funk, and sadly for us and sadly for the team, he just couldn't break out of it in time to get him into the play, to get him and advance himself in the playoffs. The other thing too that's been coming up a lot, which we've touched upon, is the things in the players in the outfield, because it's pretty obvious that Brantley's not coming back. I'll hit this one last time. I would love for the Indians to try to negotiate him back, because I think the Indians need Brantley back, because there's a lot of holes in this outfield, or a lot of question marks. Because basically, when you let him go, you're relying on Bradley Zimmer, who's been out, Greg Allen, which I think is up and coming player, Leon Martin, which it's been mentioned again, not really sure if he's coming back.
Well, we don't know where he's going to fit in, right?
Right. So there's a lot of questions in there about Martin. So I don't think you can really put him on some sort of level. Does that mean Kipnis goes back? This outfield thing, it's good. It's good for people like you and I. It's good talk, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. But I just don't. I don't know. I think for everything the Indians have going forward, when it comes, not so much mental and attitude, but on the field, the outfield to me is something to watch.
Bringing Michael back changes the entire look of the retooling that they're going to do.
Yes, it changes everything. If you do not have Michael Brantley back, I don't know if you got a consistent big league hitter in the outfield.
No, and you genuinely have to figure out how you're going to make that team good enough to win the division at that point, too. It really is that big of a change.
And I'll tell you the other thing, and the kid's been hurt, so it's not fair. But this is a huge year for Bradley Zimmer.
Yeah, well, I feel like for him and Naquin both.
Big year for Bradley Zimmer. They did not trade him. They kept him around because they thought he was going to be a star. He needs to start showing up and being healthy and playing.
Yep.
Huge year. Nice kid, good kid. Cannot underestimate it. That is a type of decision that keeps sustainable winning and losing. Bradley Zimmer it's a big deal now.
Well, he's got the possibility of, when we talk about filling in those leadership roles.
Yes.
And we talk about how Frankie needs to pick it up and hold that mantle. I think on one end you've got Lindor, and the other end could easily be Bradley Zimmer.
Yeah, I guess we'll pick it up there. That's something that's been brought up a lot that you and I kind of hit upon, but we should hammer it now. The leadership of this team, I think, is going to change too. I don't know if they really had a true leader last year. I think it's Captain Obvious. Again, I'll hit the gong. I think you got to go with Lindor. I think Lindor needs to take that role. I think it's Lindor's team now.
Does he want to?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think he's going to have to.
I'm just afraid. I'm afraid that we don't have him personality-wise nailed down. Is he the goofball, or is he the leader? Can he do both? And if you can do both, that's when life is fun. We've seen it when they can do both. It's entertaining.
Yeah, I guess to the second point here, I just think this year the energy level, I mentioned it, and I heard other people say it. It was a boring year.
Yep.
The energy level, the Central again is going to be very winnable, right? You can't, though, I think, sustain this energy level again that they had this year and win the Central. Even with the teams the way they are, I don't think the Indians will win it. I think the Indians have to come in with a sense of hunger, wanting to win, and a real sense of urgency this year from day one.
Does Kipnis want to play in the infield or the outfield?
I think Kipnis is not going to have a say. I think Kipnis, if he were given a truth pill, would say second.
Yeah.
But I think Kipnis, because of Yandy Diaz, I think what the Indians, if I were just playing manager, Yandy at third, Lindor at short, Jose at second, and either Alonso or Encarnacion at first. That means Kipnis is in the outfield. I tell you the other big one, too. It'd be great to see Eric Gonzalez step up and play better. Be great.
I don't even know. We're talking about Kipnis at second or in the outfield. I wish we were talking about Kipnis on the field or on the bench.
I know.
I don't mean that in a bad way. Against Kipnis, but Jason's at this point in his career where I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to bounce back with his bat next season. That might not be. He might be on the decline. And if that's the case, if we're talking about him at first or at second or in the outfield, that means that we have holes that we can't fill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take away. I agree with you. I think that was well said. I think Kipnis is really on the tailspin of his career, sadly. He's on the second half. That happens in sports. It's not like he's the only one.
Yeah.
And I thought last year what really stuck out to me his bat's one thing, but I thought his glove last year was not good at second base. I thought he gave up a lot of balls ever for singles that I'm not saying every play had to be made, but there's too many times I'm like.
He wasn't the only one either. I mean, this team is not as
again, focused, sense of urgency.
Yeah,
no,
2016 is dead. Another example.
Again, another example. Last one on this was I think after this week we'll take a pause on the Indians and give ourselves a break, a good relaxation period before free agency starts. The one thing I kind of brought to you that I think it will be contemplated, I think it needs to be, because of the starting staff and because of everything that the Indians have had when it comes to repertoire of pitchers, and Cody Anderson's coming back, and you can't guarantee anything from him. And you got Salazar, and I wouldn't bank on Salazar. See, I just defeated my first 2 points, but you got these plethora of pitchers. Do you consider maybe trading someone like Trevor Bauer to get something back, to get some either a jolt in the lineup, or maybe just do a fair trade to get someone who's maybe towards the tail end of their career, but it's an ace pitcher who can help you win a championship?
It's difficult because I know that Trevor, as much as polarizing as he can be personality-wise, he really has endeared himself to a large chunk of Cleveland fans.
Oh, he has.
But in my mind, I've played ball with guys like Bauer, and they annoyed the living hell out of me, and it's a distraction. And I've already talked about it, his relationship with Clevenger, and I feel like he's rubbing off in a negative way in a sense with that kid. That's not a good sign. And, when he wasn't doing that, he's doing something else. He's in the media for the wrong reasons on a regular basis. And is it as obnoxious as we've seen from other professional sports, professional athletes? No. But is it enough to get into the culture of the team and detract from what you want out of the team? Absolutely. I have never been fully on board with Trevor Bauer. I just haven't. I want him to do well. I've always wanted him to grow up. I've thought to myself, give him a few more years, he'll grow up a little bit. And he has tried. He's when he called out ESPN and then came back and apologized for it. But you know what? The guy, I mean, I think it's time to go. I say you get what you can with him.
I bring it up, too, because his stock's never going to be higher.
Yeah.
He came off a great regular
absolutely.
season. He proved it with his starts in 2017. I don't know if it's the best thing, and there may not be a deal out there. It's good. And you can't get it for up-and-coming prospects. It's not what I want for Bauer. But I just think it's something that needs to be discussed and talked about because I think this team could use a little bit more of a shakeup. And I think that's something you could do to possibly shake it up. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's going to be a good deal out there to do. But I would not be surprised if that idea gets bantered around a little bit. Final for things on baseball. Of course, there's no more Indians, but you got Dodgers, Brewers Friday night and Saturday afternoon. Gonzalez, Kershaw, and then Game 2 tomorrow's at 4 o'clock. And then the big boy series, in my opinion, nothing against Dodgers and Brewers, but you got Red Sox, Astros. Verlander, Sale, Cole, and a big start for David Price on Sunday night. Again, it's not as easy to watch because the Indians are out, but that's still Astros Red Sox is a sexy series.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if Verlander, if this is legit, if the real will the real Verlander please stand up? Yeah,
if you held a gun to my head, I would take the Brewers, and I think I'm just, it kills me to say it. I think the Astros probably take this whole thing now. I hope I'm wrong, but because I would like to see the Brewers or Dodgers win it. I don't care about the Dodgers, but I guess the Brewers. But I just get the feeling that after watching Houston, they are actually a little underappreciated, and they're really, really, really good.
The underappreciated part for the Astros has seemed to be their bulletin board material, which is great for a team that should be coming off a hangover year after winning the World Series. They found something to grab onto.
Absolutely. Then before we go around the horn and say goodbye, the one thing about the Astros that it reminded me of from a sports perspective, towards the end of that series, they reminded me of what the Hurricanes, the U, were back like in the 80s, with their cockiness, swagger, and their celebrations. When I watched that team, I was like, my God, they just pound you. They physically out. They put you under a mental stress machine because of how fast and good they are. And then they celebrate right in front of your face. And it's well-deserved. Look, they won the series, so you can do whatever you want. But that team is special.
They hit a lot of really hard home runs.
Yeah.
They
Gone.
They peel the cover.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, I mean, every one of them, Andy, was either a laser or a bomb. Every one of them.
Not gone.
Yes.
Gone. I mean, it was a cipher. God, what a terrible series for the Indians. Let's wrap it up, right? Let's just wrap this baby up and
before we go back down that path of misery.
Exactly. So real quickly to hit on a couple things, it was Big Ten Media Week. I think it's Media Week for most of the conferences, but the Big Ten got a lot of attention on Thursday. Just
we're talking basketball now.
The round ball stuff, the things that no one pays attention to until late February. But I pay attention to throughout all years. I love college basketball. So real quickly is, again, I'll do this on a separate podcast. It's not for today. But a lot of people have Michigan and Michigan State winning the league. A lot of people are saying really good things about Nebraska, which I know why, because they have players returning and everybody loves that coach, but I don't know about Nebraska being in a top 3 or 4 situation. OSU, I think, has been put by most in the bottom half of the league. I think that's too low. I really like the coach at OSU. I liked him a lot at Butler, and I think he's just going to keep rolling over there in Columbus. Players to watch in the league this year: Carson Edwards, my boy for Purdue, was picked by most to win Player of the Year. Nick Ward from Michigan State's a great star. He's really big dude underneath the basket, and what a typical Izzo player, big dude underneath the basket that makes rebounds, is intimidating. And then Ethan Happ was picked by everyone as well to finish all Big Ten. So those are your players to watch. I think the other story that came out of this, Jared, is Delaney did make notice that these next championship games for the Big Ten are going to be in Chicago and in Indianapolis.
Right.
But they are considering taking it back to the Garden, but they're not going to do it the week before the announcements, meaning they want it to be the week leading into Selection Sunday. So for people out there who did not like the Garden, he certainly did not take it out of the mix. He seemed to think that the Big Ten can go back there. Be interesting. Be interesting to see that happens. I actually didn't, real quickly, I don't want to hang on this point too much. I didn't mind the Big Ten being in the Garden. What did you think? I didn't think it was that bad. Did you mind it?
No.
Being in New York?
No. I mean, as long as it's not permanent, I mean.
Yeah, there you go. I don't mind if it's a Rob Robin kind of thing. Like, I know the ACC does that where they go to different cities each year. I don't mind that because I think it's important to have the Big Ten tournament at least every, you got to have 3 or 4 out of 5 years in the Midwest.
It's different, yeah, really absolutely. But putting a new set of eyes on, or that always, when you're hitting audiences that you wouldn't normally hit, that's the goal. You're spreading the brand. Right. It's brand awareness.
I'm just like I said, I thought it was not as people made that out to be so much stress. I didn't think it was that bad. And finally, I don't know if you've noticed, but the newest biggest Browns fans, J.R. Smith.
Yeah, I love that. I've said it. I told you that guy loves Cleveland. I love him. I don't care if he's a goofball. I still think that that Ty Lue should have called a timeout, and that wasn't really wasn't a JR issue at the end of. In that final series. So I think he got a bad rap on that. That's just my feeling. And having him at the Browns games and having him show that, I mean, that the Cavs, listen, they're going to at least be fun to watch. I know that nothing matters right now. I love JR. I'm probably getting a JR jersey this year. He really has endeared himself in all the right ways. Yeah. In the city.
Something to watch. I think I agree with everything you said and more. I think it's something to watch. I think it's fun. He's definitely getting a lot of attention, as he should. It's very cool to see him at the games.
He's like his own version of a rally possum.
I just think it's a good thing. I think he's playing it smart. And I think what I've realized very quickly is JR not only has intentions of being with the Cavs all year, he really wants to stay in Cleveland. And that says a lot about JR. It really does. It's amazing how that trade at the time looked like just one additional piece in a longer run, but he's really become a part of the city. He really has, and especially in the last few days with the Browns stuff. So Browns Chargers this week. We both like the Browns.
Yep.
More weeks, again, as after the World Series, we'll talk about the World Series a little bit on here in the playoffs, but after the World Series, we'll go back to the Indians. I think we'll take a break now and siesta for a little bit with the Indians. More college football, playoff rankings come out, and then slowly and surely we'll start doing more Cavs. We're almost through the preseason. The last couple games are now coming up, so we're going to start talking about the round ball and the professional and more as we go on.
He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to doing it again at the end of Sunday. We're going to try to do one after the Browns beat the Chargers this Sunday. How's that sound?
Yeah. I mean, let's just call it a lockadini. We're going to do it after the Chargers get stomped by the Browns. It'll be fun.
Take care, Andy.
Later, buddy.
Hey, don't forget to follow Andy and Jared, Cleveland and Beyond, on Facebook at facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond, and on Twitter at CLE and Beyond. That's at CLE and Beyond on Twitter. You can also shoot us an email, andyandjared@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing your comments.